Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. As we're getting ready for the institutional cycle, the ETF is just moments away from getting approved. We're going to be seeing the most money coming into this bull run than ever before. When this market takes off, we're going to see a lot of that institutional money going into DeFi, and I believe that DeFi is going to have some of the biggest gains this cycle. For today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the DeFi total market cap, looking at what it's showing us, talking about the recent breakout we've seen, and then also sharing with you guys a few of my favorite DeFi altcoins that I'm personally invested in that I think are going to perform very well long term. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so as we're starting today's video, I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing inside of Bitcoin in the short term. In yesterday's video, we talked about how it looks like we could be in for one more lower low like this before we end up getting that next leg up in this cycle. Now, in the short term, we are holding support in the mid-range, but we're kind of just stuck inside of this range. We're not really closing back above prior support, but we're also not really closing below, major resistance. We're just stuck in the middle. So if we're going to be bullish, we really need to see us reclaim this level, basically being 42,600. If we can get back above that, I do think that that could set us in for, once again, the move that we were initially talking about, because in this initial decline, what we've really been covering was how we expected us to come back up to this 618, and if we ended up rejecting, most likely that was going to produce a lower low. So we have seen the pullback from there. If we were to reclaim and get back above around the 618 level right here, then at that point I would think that we could get a reversal, but we're just right there, not really having confirmation one way or another. We're just hugging that main descending resistance right now. So that's kind of what I'm watching for inside of Bitcoin. No real confirmation one way or another. I think the best thing that we can do is just watch for this level being 41,850. If we come back down and then we close back below that, I think that we're going to be due for, like I said, that lower low that I talked about in yesterday's video. But if we can reclaim that 618, make that higher high, our real final hurdle is going to be, the prior high of this ABC, which would be 43,500. So if we got above that, I think it's a total confirmation that we're getting a new high in the process, and it would look something more along the lines of this. However, it's all going to be resolving around these 3 points. We've found support in the short term. We're currently rejecting off the mid-range as resistance. If we get above the mid-range, that sets us in for a reversal. Confirmation of the reversal comes after we clear 43,500. So that's what we're looking out for with Bitcoin. Now guys, let's talk a little bit about DeFi, what we're seeing here, and the reason why I think that this one is setting up in the most profitable way, comparing it to the rest of the market. So in my last video, when we talked about DeFi, we were more or less just covering the exact same point, talking about the total altcoin market cap and talking about the total market cap as well. All of these were at the exact same moment of time where they had just broken out of this horizontal resistance, or were in the process of doing so. And DeFi was doing this and also breaking its descending resistance at the same time. So not only do we break out of this horizontal resistance, but we've also cleared out of all descending resistance of our prior bear market. So as it stands, DeFi in the total market cap of all of the other indices that we have, and they're actually lagging a little bit. But what we've seen with DeFi is this just continues to make higher highs and continues to break out. And this is what we talked about in that last video. We knew that if we got above both of these levels, there is almost no resistance until we get all the way back to 106 billion, which was like a 75% increase in value. So I was looking at DeFi as having some of those biggest gains in the market just because of how much more undervalued it was big picture. When we're comparing the next resistance, when we're looking at the total market cap, then when we're looking at the total altcoin market cap, and then when we're looking at the total altcoin market cap excluding Ethereum, all of them, show a decent sized move to their next resistance, but none of them come even close to having the same significance as what DeFi is doing right now. So that's why I thought once this breaks out, we're going to see a lot more profit coming this way. And what I find interesting is it's actually outperforming the rest of those indices as well. We've broken out, and this thing really hasn't pulled back. When the whole market pulled back right here, this dip got bought up and we made a higher high. So I do think that this one's going to continue to see more upside, and we're kind of at that last stage before we're going to see, significant markup from here. So let's talk a little bit about some of the altcoins inside of DeFi, some of the top ones, some that I'm personally invested in that I think are going to end up taking off, because if we're seeing the total market cap of DeFi doing this and it looks like it's just about to start making a big leg, you got to expect that the rest of the DeFi tokens are going to end up doing the same. So the first one on today's video is going to be Chainlink. you can't talk about DeFi unless you start with Chainlink, and Chainlink's been my favorite investment going into this next cycle, just mainly because I believe that it was the institutional cycle. So if Chainlink is truly the staple and the backbone of DeFi, and the reason it pretty much exists, we would expect to see this thing perform well if we're going to see the total market cap breaking out too. Now, the difference between these, Chainlink's already started breaking out, right? And the total market cap has done the same, but it's not quite as significant of what Chainlink has done. So when we're comparing the two, this has been the outlier. It's been the early outperformer. Now, in the shorter time frames, this doesn't really look that good one way or another. It kind of looks like it might end up falling back down to this main range low. And this is the same analysis that we had last time we talked about Chainlink, more or less watching for it to come back down for one more low around $13.50. I still think that that's going to be most likely the scenario forward from here. If we ended up seeing that reversal, I think that that's going to be taking us into our final leg up inside of at least this short-term impulse, because our big picture Elliott wave count inside of this wave 3, we do have what looks to either be, this is wave 3 of 3 and we're inside of wave 4 before we have this next leg up. And we're either at a point where we are working on wave 3 and then we'll get a wave 4 correction, or we've already kind of finished wave 3 and we're in that right now. I don't know which one it is, but for me, my main target's been $19.50, and that's really what I'm going to continue to watch for. I think that regardless of what the Elliott wave count is, that's where this is going to be going before this is over, and it can definitely overextend. For me, this is a long-term hold. I don't really care so much about heavy profit taking in these lower levels. I'm targeting new all-time highs in the cycle, so that's kind of my focus there. But if this is what's happening with the major, the leader of the DeFi market, then most likely we're going to continue to see the rest of the market taking off. Now, what will happen is you have these main leaders to start the cycle, and then once they get closer towards their topping points, you'll see their money start to filter out and then go back into some of the other altcoins. And that's kind of what we're seeing. As this one's broken out, as many of the other ones have led the market, we're starting to see that money leave the higher cap cryptos and trickle back into some of the undervalued projects. Now, the next one we're talking about today is going to be Aave. Aave is a lending protocol, and I still believe that this one is going to see upside long-term from here. Now, when we're looking at this, they all kind of look the same. The only difference is many of these DeFi protocols just haven't really made any sort of significant breakout of their resistance. We have a few different levels here. We kind of retested our range highs with this most recent move, but as it stands, it's looking like we're going to be getting that final breakout that we've been watching for. If this ends up being a retest and we can get that leg outside of this resistance right here, this horizontal resistance, I think that that sets us in for a decent size of move. And really the leg that I'm looking for is either going to be here at about $190 or all the way up here at like $259. We're looking at a big rounded bottom type of formation happening after a massive correction. This is just rounding out before we start that next cycle. And what I find really interesting about this chart is how much it actually looks like the Wall Street cheat sheet. And that's one of the things I like about DeFi and a lot of these DeFi projects is you actually can see this exact chart playing out in them. This would basically be the same as capitulation. Then you reject there, then you go to anger. That's there. Reject again. Then you kind of go for this final low. That would be right there. And then this starts the disbelief phase, right? Where it starts breaking back out again. Nobody really thinks that it's going to take off. And then that's exactly when it actually does that. So we're at the exact point of the market cycle where you're pretty much at the last moment of time where you can buy it going into the next bull market. And that's kind of what I think is about to be playing out from here. If we're right now just about to break horizontal resistance, we've already broken descending resistance. So that's obsolete. It's really just our horizontal resistance right in here that we've been accumulating around. I think that once this breaks, we're probably going to see this thing go to $262. And the way DeFi is looking so far, like I've talked about, guys, if DeFi has all of this room to move, do not be the least bit surprised if we start seeing some of these markets that are, more the leaders in DeFi really take off in a big way. We've already seen Thorchain taking off. It's running all the way up, fairly close to its prior all-time highs, and it's starting to cement itself as a leader. There's altcoins I'm not talking about in DeFi in today's video just because they've already taken off and I don't really want to cover them while they're up so much. Chainlink's really just the first one, but we've been covering it for so long I wanted to talk about it. With Aave, showing that it's at that last moment before that breakout. This is where you're pretty much going to be your last chance to get into these before that significant markup takes off, and we really have total confirmation around the total DeFi market cap. Now the next one is going to be Synthetix. Synthetix is an awesome project because this basically allows you to create synthetic tokens, and this is one of the tokens that blew up next to Aave when we had DeFi summer back in 2020. It was a really crazy time, and this is one that I've just been holding, you know, all the way since the last cycle in 2020, and I plan to just continue to do it from here. Now, it's in the same exact time as Aave for the most part. It's more or less just broken out of the mid-range. We've currently retested the range highs, and it's looking like, you know, we're working on some type of a retest. Whether this is a retest or whether we come back down to the mid-range to cement support, I'm not 100% sure yet. I wouldn't really be surprised with either. But big picture, I think that this one's going to be coming up to at least $8.20. And from where we're at today, you know, that's like 100%. And if we were to come all the way back down to this mid-range, you'd be looking at like 150%. Big picture, these things are going to massively outperform. With DeFi going to be gaining the most adoption long-term, especially with all of the hype around the institutional phase of the cycle, I just don't think you can go wrong holding these. These have been some of the more, these have been the staples of the DeFi market up to this point. You got to expect that a lot of these DeFi protocols are going to be ending up using these synthetic tokens as we get more adoption long-term. So we're going to be watching out for this one. The next one is going to be Curve. Now, Curve is another one of my favorites, and it's been another one I've been holding since all the way back in 2020, and I plan to just continue to do that from here. Now, when I'm looking at this, it looks the most like the Wall Street cheat sheet, and that's why I think that this thing is about to be taking off. Now, when we look at this, it went through the exact same sort of pattern here in its bear market. And now we're literally at the exact point when we're about to be starting that disbelief phase. And so when I'm looking at this, I think that it's going to end up running up to about $3 in the top of this disbelief phase. It'll be something like this before we correct back down, you know, come and retest this before we ever start going back up again. This is pretty much what I'm watching for long term, is some type of, you know, breakout as we run up, make the first leg up to begin this cycle, and then we'll expect to see some type of decent sized pullback as we, you know, basically retest those prior highs as true support, truly cement the reversal of the new cycle. That's more or less what I'm looking at with all of these markets, because even if we're looking at Chainlink or something, you know, all of them are going to make this first breakout. I don't know how high that's going to be. Some of them are going to outperform, but we're going to see them all kind of break out, and then we'll probably see some type of lengthy consolidation like this as we build a new foundation of support leading into 2024, where we would expect to see the market kind of take off once again. So when we're looking at all of these, they're all at different points, but mostly all are flipping their major resistance levels, and it's looking like they're about to be taking a big leg up. Some of them are a little bit more overvalued, some of them are a little bit more undervalued, but with DeFi as a whole being kind of where the majority of the money is going to be focused on, especially with institutional money in the market, everybody wants to earn yield, everybody wants to be able to participate in some of these protocols, and with DeFi, a lot of these token supplies are already being staked, they're already being, you know, locked up for periods of time, so the supplies are going to be small, so the total amount that they can actually buy on the market is going to be fairly small. There won't be as much liquidity to actually trade without the price going up a lot more. Now the last one we're talking about is going to be Frax Shares. Now Frax Shares is one of those that could either take off in a big way or it could kind of fail with regulation. It's more focused inside of the stablecoin narrative in DeFi, so if we end up having some major crackdown, this one's going to be a little bit more of a risky hold, but I like it because it just has one of the more obvious rounded bottom accumulations, and this first little breakout that we went through is just a one wave impulse. I think that this is setting up in a really big way. If we count our Elliott waves, all this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and then we finished this big ABC correction back down. After the bottom of that, we got this nice Adam and Eve double bottom formation, and now we're already breaking out, flipping the mid-range, and it's looking like this thing's going to be going up a lot higher. Now, when I look at this long term, you know, all of these are going to be going into a new all-time high. That's just something you need to remember. When we're looking at all of these, it's crazy that they're so low. They're at the very bottom of their cycle. But when I'm holding every single one of these tokens, I'm holding them into a new all-time high. I'm holding them a couple years from now. I'm not taking profits on these short-term leg ups because I think that overall, the bulk of the move is about to happen. If we're about to see this big leg up and this thing potentially runs all the way back up to like $29 to $27, that's kind of what I'm watching for our next resistance. And so if that's the case, having a move like this, you know, we'll definitely see some type of correction after. That's to be expected. But even after a correction, even if it takes months and months and we're sitting at mid 2024 before we're ever breaking out again, I have no problem holding through all of that. Every one of these cryptos has proven to see adoption long term, except for this one. You know, this one's kind of a little bit more what if, so to speak, which is why I've made it last on today's list. But it's also one of the more undervalued ones, big picture. This is its own layer 2. It's also got its own stable coin. It's also got its own network for earning yields on stable coins and things like that. So I do think that with a lot more people coming into the market, especially in a bear market, these type of tokens can actually do well long term. So with Frax Shares, I'm watching that one. I think it's about to be taking a much bigger leg up, and that's kind of going to be the staple across the board on all of these markets, guys. They all look very bullish, so it's really what happens with Bitcoin. I think regardless, if Bitcoin takes a lower low like we talked about, makes one more sell-off like this, we'll see DeFi pull back for sure. If that's the case, maybe we come back down and retest it, something like this. But overall, I still think that we're going to be getting that next leg up. So it doesn't matter in the short term. If all of the indices are breaking out and making these big reversals, there's no reason to really be trying to take too much heavy profit, because all of these top DeFi protocols are honestly just at the low ends of their accumulations. They haven't really done all of that much yet. So I'm watching these ones. These are ones I hold. Wanted to give you guys an update, talk about some of these tokens. Think that they're all great buys right now and could potentially even be better buys over the next couple weeks. We'll just have to see what happens with Bitcoin. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server, see how I'm investing in this cycle, anything I'm buy, selling, trading, all of the tokens in today's video were once given a signal, and they're all in profit. So if you guys do want to check that out, links are in the description. Thank you all so much. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.